Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg returned to San Diego County today for the second time in less than a month. Good evening, I'm Maya Trabulsi, and this time he got a look at the work underway to make the region's fourth border crossing. Here's KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer.
Every year, billions of dollars in trade goods pass through San Diego County's 3 ports of entry along the border with Mexico. Today, U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg came back to San Diego to highlight the funding and construction of what will be a 4th port of entry. He says the Otay Mesa East project is one of many his department is supporting in Southern California.
For example, picture one of those trucks that's going to come through Otay Mesa. It might head north to a warehouse connected to the Port of LA, where we recently announced $20 million to build a new 4-lane roadway and bridge.
Buttigieg says President Biden's infrastructure package included $150 million for the Otay Mesa East project.
A new inspection facility for commercial trucks, 10 new lanes for incoming vehicles, state-of-the-art inspection equipment, zero-emissions chargers for staff vehicles, and state-of-the-art technology designed to make the entire operation safer and more efficient.
Multiple agencies are coming together to work on the binational development, including Caltrans and the San Diego Association of Governments. Sandag CEO Hassan Ikrata says it will drastically reduce border wait times.
We're talking about opening a border crossing that's guarantee a 20-minute crossover between borders and giving the trade between the two nations. This is an economic prosperity to be happening soon.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria says the project will also help cut down carbon emissions.
It's transformational for air quality by reducing emissions from idling trucks. And I'll remind folks that our border region has suffered the impacts of poor air quality more than any other part of our city.
Officials say the project is expected to be completed in the fall of 2024. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
A special counsel has been appointed to oversee criminal investigations focused on former President Trump.
On recent developments, including the former president's announcement that he is a candidate for president in the next election, and the sitting president's stated intention to be a candidate as well, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
Attorney General Merrick Garland named longtime Justice Department official Jack Smith to independently head up 2 Trump-related investigations. One has to do with classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago. The other is related to the January 6th insurrection and attempts to undo the 2020 election. A Trump spokesperson called the announcement, quote, a political stunt. Governor Gavin Newsom told cities they need to do better and come up with bolder plans to solve California's homelessness crisis. Today, he met with the state's big city mayors, including San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. And KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne joins us now with the latest. Tanya.
Local governments in California were rocked when Governor Gavin Newsom rejected all local homeless action plans in the state and abruptly held back funding. The governor is asking cities for more aggressive action on homelessness. Homeless advocate Michael McConnell says this move could be a wake-up call for city government statewide.
We're funding a dysfunctional system is what's happening. And the system has to be improved in order for that money to be better spent and so more people can get off the street. And I think it's time to quit patting people on the back and saying you're doing a great job and doing exactly what the governor did and said, whoa, y'all aren't doing a very good job. Let's rethink this. And I think that's exactly what needs to be done. I think they need to rethink this and start moving plans to scale and figuring out how to get there and then figuring out how much money is needed.
Today's meeting with Newsom was to talk about what's next. Mayor Todd Gloria pitched was to set more ambitious goals for the next round of funding and to release the funds already committed to the city. Newsom agreed to release $1 billion in state homelessness funding, but only if local governments agree to step up the aggressiveness of their plans going forward. Following the meeting, Mayor Todd Gloria released this statement. I welcome the accountability and look forward to the state and local governments continuing to work together to serve the greatest challenges of our time, homelessness and housing affordability. Gloria said the $20 million San Diego is expected to receive this round will help fund shelter beds, pay for street outreach workers, and housing programs. Live in the studio, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Thank you so much, Tanya. 1 in 4 San Diegans experiences food insecurity, and that is according to a report from San Diego Hunger Coalition. KPBS reporter Melissa May shows us what that looks like with the holiday season approaching.
The San Diego Hunger Coalition says over 900,000 San Diegans are unable to provide 3 nutritious meals for themselves or their family per day. And it says nearly 29% of the county's children are food insecure.
There's a mother who has her children and her grandchildren living in their home. And unfortunately, I know she had been off of work. She worked with me and she'd been off of work because she had come down with COVID. And so she hadn't worked in the last couple of weeks.
The pandemic still affects many San Diegans, and even with San Diego's hunger relief sector increasing its food assistance by 74%, nutrition insecurity remains at crisis levels. Saquon, the San Diego Padres, and the National School District gave away turkeys on Thursday to help those experiencing nutrition insecurity celebrate Thanksgiving.
We almost lost him last year, so for us, it means a lot, being together with the family, having us with us. It helps us a lot.
El Cajon resident Elizabeth Adams has been taking care of a sick family member.
I was his caregiver, all the time, so we always go get free food, So if it wasn't for the free food, we wouldn't have no food on the table. So for us, it means a lot.
Residents are battling with an increase in food, housing, fuel, and energy prices, while 30% of full-time workers in the county are still making less than $35,000 a year. National City resident Ivy Scott says she tries to help someone every Thanksgiving.
You gotta remember, that we don't live in this world by ourselves. Take care of somebody. Do something for somebody. Invite them over. Take them a dinner, somebody that's sick and shut in, do something wonderful, because that's what Thanksgiving is about. We got to be thankful.
If you need food assistance, go to SanDiegoHungerCoalition.org. Melissa May, KPBS News.
A slight uptick in San Diego County's unemployment rate. According to figures released today by the Employment Development Department, the rate is up from 3.1 to 3.2% since last month. That is with 14,000 more non-farm jobs added. The September rate from last year was 5.1%. The state unemployment rate is 3.8%, and nationally, the rate is 3.4%. Some good news for home buyers. Mortgage rates saw their largest weekly drop in over 40 years, and this comes as a series of economic reports indicate inflation may finally be easing. According to Freddie Mac, the 30-year fixed rate have averaged 6.6% this past week, and that is down from around 7% the week before. However, it's still more than twice the average 1 year ago. Today is World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims, and tonight there is a vigil to honor those who died in San Diego. And KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado is at the Civic Center Plaza downtown to show us that tribute. Kitty.
That's right, Maya, and this event just got underway, and there are absolutely heartbreaking stories being told. And if you take a look behind me, 294 people, that's how many were killed on our roadways last year. That is a somber number, and there is a somber display here, a pair of shoes to represent each of those lives. People are invited to write the names of anyone they've lost of traffic collisions also here on those luminaries. This event is organized by Families for Safe Streets San Diego and the San Diego Bike Coalition. We spoke with Laura Keenan, the founder of Families for Safe Streets San Diego, who lost her husband in September of last year. He was killed by a wrong-way driver while riding his bike.
He was the father to our 15-month-old son at the time, so I am now a solo parent with a 2-year-old and raising him on my own. And I started getting into advocacy pretty soon after Matt was killed, and quickly realized my voice alone could only go so far. So I decided to form this group so other people who have lost loved ones to traffic collisions could also share their voice, and we collectively would have a lot more power to make change.
And she tells me most of those deaths are preventable, and they avoid using the word accident, so they're not just here for a vigil. This is really a call to action, so they're asking the city to lower speed limits on the most dangerous roads, update the master bike plan by 2023, and double the money for protected bike lanes. And the shoes that you see here on display, they will be donated to charity. Live in downtown San Diego, Kitty Alvarado, back to you in the studio.
It's been 5 years since the Me Too movement, but many women in law enforcement still experience sexism on the job. KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser looks at what departments are doing to fix this.
For some women working under San Diego Sheriff Sergeant Kataro Murashige, a day at the office meant sexist, condescending, and disparaging comments. An internal affairs report found that when female deputies called Murashige to ask for help, he'd hang up on them. When they asked for additional job training, he mocked them, ignored them, or told them to quit. Murashige resigned in lieu of being fired, but he kept his $6,000 monthly pension. His attorney didn't respond to requests for comment. As this case shows, even in 2022, police departments can still be toxic places, especially for women. Ellen Kirschman is a psychologist who treats police officers. She says police departments need women in their ranks.
They make really, really, really good officers. Some of the sharpest, smartest, most dedicated, and competent people I know in law enforcement are female.
Kirschman says female officers can find themselves caught in a catch-22. Sexism keeps them out of leadership roles, so the sexism often continues.
If you have the right women that have been promoted, they will keep their eye out and for when these things happen, and they will mentor the younger or the newer women on the job.
So what can be done? Kirschman says if departments are serious, they adopt strict policies and enforce them.
People in charge at the level of management can show decent behavior as opposed to being part of the problem, which it sometimes happens.
No one from the sheriff's department would do an interview for this story, but a spokesperson sent a statement saying the department has strict policies and all employees are required to attend sexual harassment training. But the trainings fall far short, says Debbie Stiesmeyer. She's a former detective suing the sheriff's department for sexual harassment she experienced on the job.
They're, cartoon trainings on a computer. So maybe humanizing the experience and really listening to what happened needs to happen. Even in our detective trainings, you can read the manuals, you can read the materials, but the most memorable training for me was when they brought the rape victims in and they spoke to us and told us what worked.
If an officer is kind of shut down and not really caring, not really tuned in, finding it difficult to relate to his fellow brothers and sisters that they serve with.
Dan Willis is a retired captain from the La Mesa Police Department. He says departments need strict policies, but that's also not enough. They also need empathy and understanding about how the stress and trauma of the job can impact their officers' behavior. If you don't have that,
then you're going to be much more likely to just do things without thinking of the consequences, without thinking of the other person's feelings.
Stiesmeyer says systemic reforms are needed that go beyond an individual department. Her harasser did leave the force, but he still gets a pension of almost $6,000 a month.
There has to be a consequence to stop people from doing this. There's nothing deterring them from doing this behavior. So I think that's a huge thing, is that there needs to be big consequences.
She wants a new state law that would stop that from happening. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
Another bad report card for San Diego's ambulance provider. Falck is set to see fines after failing to meet response times and staffing goals again. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman has more on changes that could be coming in the new year.
I'm sure we all agree this is not where we thought we'd be a year ago.
San Diego Fire Rescue Chief Colin Stoll is not seeing the high level of service promised by the city's ambulance provider, Falck.
This is not getting any better anytime soon. We're seeing the trends right now in the staffing, and I do not feel like anything is going to be corrected in the very near future if we just wait this out and wait for staffing to improve.
It's been just about a year since Falck fully took over San Diego's 911 contract. They provide emergency ambulance services throughout the city of San Diego. To get that contract, they promised more paramedics and EMTs, but data from the city shows they haven't once met their monthly staffing goals. This week's update to City Council focused on the months of July, August, and September. Falck San Diego's managing director, Jeff Baim, says low staffing levels have continued hurting response times.
July, in terms of compliance, was very good. August became a little worse, and we saw September being one of our worst months of the year next to January. And a lot of that certainly due to staffing, illness, injury.
Falck has already been fined $1.5 million, and the fire department says more fines are on the way. Falck says there's a nationwide shortage of paramedics and EMTs. Also, they admit recruiting has been a challenge, even after offering sign-on bonuses.
This ebb and flow is very obvious. The problem we have here is they are not competitive.
Anthony Sorcy is a 25-year paramedic, and he's also president of the union representing Falck employees. He says staffing shortages are forcing overtime, and first responders are burning out.
Our members share experiences of helplessness, mental anguish that has resulted in increased numbers of physical injury, illness, PTSD, and serious clinical depression.
Sorcy also says lack of staff has ambulances traveling all over the city, pushing up response times and even forcing the fire department to take their own measures.
These delays have resulted in critical patients being transported to area hospitals by San Diego fire engines because the fire crews could not longer wait at scene for an ambulance to become available for their calls.
City data shows the amount of time that no paramedic ambulances are available has risen since April. Councilmember Raul Campillo was not pleased with the lack of improvement.
I really just, I'm disappointed that we seem to be in a position where we can't provide our residents with what was promised to them. It's the same song again.
Councilmember Marnie Von Wilpert says she doesn't need to hear any more.
It seems that we have a pretty serious problem, that this contract is failing.
Fire Chief Stoll is preparing for the worst. He commissioned a study to look into what it would take for the city to take over emergency medical services. Those options are set to be presented in January.
Whether it's an amendment to the contract or if we have to do some kind of a bond or takeover of the program or bring another company in to help, we need to do something.
Falck officials also maintain that one reason for delays is ambulances are being held too long at hospitals. They're getting some pushback. Scripps health officials say emergency rooms are busy, but data shows most patient drop-offs happen on time. Councilmember Monica Montgomery Stepp says, bottom line, no more excuses.
I just don't want to hear that anymore. We need to put solutions on the table, and I'm glad that we're going to be coming back in January with some potential solutions.
Falck is working with the city and other stakeholders on improvements. Falck officials say they remain committed to San Diego. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The nest at Twitter is looking bare after staffers have left the company in droves, and that has many users now fearing the worst for the social media platform. Isabel Rosales has the latest.
Twitter employees have flown the coop, quitting the company in what one former executive described as a mass exodus. It's a rejection to Elon Musk's ultimatum to work extremely hardcore or leave.
Some of them feel cursed that they weren't laid off with the initial layoff a couple weeks ago when Elon executed mass cuts at the company.
He's never done a major strategic change like this
And so it's always been companies that he's built the culture of and shifting, but he's shifting now the culture of a company he didn't start.
Hashtag RIP Twitter became the top trending topic worldwide Thursday night. But Musk says he sees it as life-giving, tweeting record numbers of users are logging in to see if Twitter is dead, ironically making it more alive than ever.
We have to remember that Musk comes from a culture of SpaceX where he built in the culture there that is it is acceptable for a $100 million rocket to explode and you can move on and build another one the next day. If you come from that kind of environment, messing up a check mark on Twitter is honestly not as big a deal, I think, from their eyes.
Now, as the company's future and workforce hangs in the balance, all Twitter offices are temporarily closed, and employee badge access has been suspended until Monday. Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
Black Friday is usually the big launch for holiday shopping, but some of the best deals might actually be this weekend. SDSU's Mira Kopik explains why stores are trying to get an early start in the Friday Business Report.
Retailers are a little bit concerned about this holiday season. We had some retailers like Target and Macy's, which announced both lower revenues and lower profits. Amazon also saw very soft results. Now, on the other hand, you look at Walmart that had record sales and profits. And so now when we look at the holiday shopping window, we're looking at, this year, the National Retail Federation is estimating about $950 billion in retail sales, an increase of about 6 to 8%. And so consumers, especially low and middle income consumers, are looking for holiday deals. And this is going to be the first year in 3 years that retailers are actually going to increase the number of discounts that are going to be available to consumers. And in fact, this coming weekend, especially Sunday, is kind of the real hardcore kickoff of the holiday shopping season. And generally, this Sunday is when some of the best discounts will be offered by retailers, both physical retailers and online retailers. So consumers need to be aware of that.
Wrapping up our week, heading into the weekend, here's a look at those weather headlines. We are still talking about those Santa Ana conditions continuing through the weekend, but the winds will weaken Sunday into Monday, and then we do have a warm-up on the way as we head into next week. So more about the Santa Ana winds here continuing through Saturday. Could still cause issues with downed trees and power lines. Also that high fire risk and dangerous crosswinds. Winds gusting anywhere 40 to 60 miles per hour with an AccuWeather local storm max 80 miles per hour. That would likely be into the mountains as we head throughout the weekend. You're seeing that match up nicely with the National Weather Service's outlook for that wind advisory. So that will continue Saturday morning through your Sunday to about 2 o'clock. So heads up, Julian down to Pine Valley for some of those really gusty winds continuing. Otherwise, cool tonight. We're down to about 39 in Oceanside, 46 in San Diego, 41 Borrego Springs. Mount Laguna will drop to the 30s tonight, but then rebound to the 50s by tomorrow afternoon. Windy conditions in San Diego, 73 tomorrow. Oceanside, though, makes it up to 77. Looking at our setup as we head into Sunday, we'll see more of that comfortable air moving back in after a cooler air mass, so that's going to be nice. But I do still think breezy at times, at least through the first half of the day on our Sunday. Your 5-day outlook along the coast, we've got 70s for Saturday and Sunday, then cooler air on the way Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, highs in the upper 60s. Looking at your inland valleys, we'll see 80 on Sunday. Temperatures still warm Monday, and then we'll see those 70s for Tuesday and Wednesday. Peaking at the mountains, temperatures will be into the mid-50s Saturday, a little bit warmer on Sunday, and then we drop a bit Monday and Tuesday, high around 57 by next Wednesday. And then taking a look at your desert forecast, as those temperatures will be into the lower 70s for Saturday and Sunday. Plenty of sunshine through the weekend, and then staying pretty nice as we head into early next week, as those temperatures will remain into the 70s before warming up by Wednesday. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the Biden administration shields the Saudi crown prince from lawsuits over his role in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's another look at today's top stories. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg returned to San Diego County today for the second time in less than a month. This time he got a look at the work underway to make the region's 4th border crossing a reality. It's expected to drastically reduce wait times and help cut down carbon emissions from idling vehicles. President Biden's infrastructure package included $150 million for the Otay Mesa East project, and it's expected to be completed in the fall of 2024. And Governor Gavin Newsom has agreed to release $1 billion in state homelessness funding he put on pause earlier this month. It follows a meeting today with the state's big city mayors today, including San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. But the governor says that he will only release the money if local governments agree to step up the aggressiveness of their plans going forward to reduce homelessness. It was a sea of pink this morning at the annual Susan G. Komen Walk for Breast Cancer Awareness kickoff. The 3-day walk raises money for breast cancer awareness, with each person raising $2,300 and walking 60 miles. Many of the participants are breast cancer survivors themselves. Others are walking in memory of a loved one.
It took me this while to be able to do these things again that mom would have been with me before, and now mom's not there. You know, how do you deal with that first Christmas, that first Easter, that first birthday that she's not there? Either keep complaining about what took my mom's life, or I could do something about it, and decided that it's time to do something about it.
Since 2003, the money and awareness raised by the foundation has contributed to a 42% decline in the death rate from breast cancer because of early detection and effective treatment. And you can find tonight's stories right there on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.